Well, good morning. I think my computer's a little slow. I was almost late this morning, and that is one of my immutable laws is not to be late. I was in boarding school in South Africa in the 1983 through 1986 or 87. So, if any of you guys were in Pretoria in boarding school, you might have been in boarding school with me. Well, the reason I bring that up is not one of my, our headmistress, her name was Beryl. Um, Mullins. She has long passed away. But anyway, she taught us if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late. And so that is one of my immutable laws. If I'm not 5 minutes early, I'm late. And this morning, I was almost late. So I am welcoming you guys here to the Baffled Brain, Demystifying Dementia. Today is March the 20th. I cannot believe it's almost Easter. It's March the 20th, 2021, and this is episode 17. And I am your host, Lizette Kluge from Think Different Dementia, where we believe caregivers deserve reliable information and accessible answers to questions. Because providing caregivers or care partners actionable strategies and reliable information gives them, as well as the person with dementia, their best quality of life, improving their relationships and delaying their decline. So welcome, 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 anybody and everybody who is out there. Hi, Chris. Wonderful. Glad to have you here. If you guys are live, put in live. If you're on the replay, put in replay. If you have particular questions for me, I would love for you to give me those questions in the comments. I do answer them. I have a cheat sheet here to get me started this morning. I'm starting to get a little bit better at this. It's kind of fun to see. Good morning, Miss Denise. Wonderful to have you here this morning. So I will start with a question that I got last evening from Dan. Dan said he's about to introduce his mother, who is 91 years old in the mid stages of dementia, to an adult day center or an adult daycare. She says that she's not social, but really needs socialization and activities. Any pointers on how to approach this with her? Dan, that is a great question. I'm so very glad you asked that. And to be very honest with you, I am so glad that you are taking your mom to a adult day center. People with dementia really do need social. Can't speak English this morning. Do need socialization and activities. One of the things that happens when you have dementia is you actually lose your internal ability to, what's the word I want to use, initiate activities on your own. So even though it looks like the person with dementia may not actually be interested in doing things, but it's that they lose their internal volitional switch. They lose the ability to initiate doing activities on their own. And yes, socialization is a massive big thing. So what I have noticed this past year with COVID, Dan, is that people with dementia who have been socially isolated, their cognition actually has gotten worse. So I think that's a great thing that you're ready to take your mom back to or introduce her to an adult daycare. It is a very important thing for people to get socialization and activities. Now, how to introduce her with this? I think that's going to depend on a variety of factors. If she lives with you, I would just make it factual. I don't know that I necessarily would try to prepare her per se. She may not remember day to day. I would just say, Mom, Monday morning we have an 8 o'clock appointment or a 9 o'clock appointment, whatever time it starts, and we're going to be getting ready to go to this appointment. I wouldn't tell her necessarily it's an adult daycare or it's an adult day program or any of those kinds of things. I would just say, we have an appointment, we're getting ready for the appointment, get her ready and make it very factual and make it part of the routine, especially if she lives with you. That way it doesn't become this major big thing. It's not so hard, and you just kind of want to prepare her step by step by step. Just say, it's time for us to get ready. Let's get ready for this appointment. Then, okay, we're going to the car. What appointment is it? We're just, we're going to the appointment that we made. Try not to argue with her if she asks what it is. Say we're going somewhere where we can be around other people, and then just see, the adult daycare may also have some suggestions for you regarding that. They may tell you it would be helpful, for you to stay with her for a few hours. They may tell you it's not helpful for you to stay with her for a few hours. I would just kind of take your cues from your mom. But socialization really is a very important thing for all of our older adults, but especially for older adults who have cognitive impairment. So what a wonderful gift you're giving her, Dan. I really think that that is such a blessing, and I hate that COVID happened and that we were not able to keep people in their socializations. And I've actually seen that happen with my mom. My mom has moderate dementia, probably, she's getting to the stage 4 on the functional assessment staging tool. And socialization has been very limited. So any of you guys out there on live right now, if you have questions, please throw them in the comments for me and I'd be happy to answer them. I'm going to ask you guys to put in live, or if you're on the replay, put in replay. Denise, Chris, or Julia, if you guys have any particular questions because you threw in a comment there, please throw them out there and I will answer them. So the next question I'm going to answer this morning was from Sharon. She says her mom is asking about her deceased mother. Is it better to say she's just away somewhere? Sharon, I know that must be very hard for you, and I apologize I didn't get to this question last week. It kind of dropped off of my comments. But it's not uncommon for people with dementia, if you think about it, that they are kind of going, if you use the functional assessment staging tool, which kind of follows a chronological decline in a person's abilities, as a person with dementia, and each dementia type is a little different, but most people with dementia or Alzheimer's dementia follow a pretty chronological, or I don't want to say predictable. People with Alzheimer's dementia follow a very predictable path, and most of the time they're following a very predictable chronological decline. So your mom, who is asking about your grandmother or her mother, might be in a timeline in her brain where she is a young person and where her mother should still be with us. And so if it's going to upset your loved one, if it's going to upset your mom to say to her, Mom, grandma's dead or your mom's dead, then absolutely you don't want to do that. You want to just reassure her, and yes, saying that she is just away somewhere may be the best answer that you can give her. Just reassure her. Most of the time, if you go back to the emotions behind what the person is saying, they may be saying, I'm not feeling safe, or I'm afraid, or I'm worried about, I think my mom should be here, so I'm worried about my mom. So if that's the place where she's coming from, reassuring her that she is loved and that she is cared for and that she has you with her, will help her in that. But saying to her, your mom is passed away, is probably not helpful. So it sounds to me, Miss Sharon, like you're doing the right thing. So I hope that question, that answer was helpful to you, and I will tag you in this video later today. And then Shannon also had a question. Nobody out there is asking any questions. Please ask questions, guys, because I've only got a handful over here. I rely on you guys to ask me questions throughout so that I can, keep this conversation going. This is my gift to you. This is my gift to you guys. I want the people on live to actually ask me questions because then I can give you particular answers to your particular questions. I can only answer them sometimes in generality. I cannot necessarily answer them very specifically, but if you ask me questions, I will answer them. And if you ask me questions on the replay, I will answer them. So please go ahead and ask some questions this morning. So the next question, I feel like I'm speaking a lot and fast this morning. Maybe I'm speaking too fast, but the next question was from Shannon. So Shannon said she has a question and needed advice. Her mom will be 72. She has lived with Shannon for about 6 years. The doctor said that she could no longer drive several years ago, and her driver's license is up for renewal. I told her she didn't need a driver's license anymore and we would get her a state ID. She keeps pushing the issue, and I asked her why she needed it, and her response is always the same: I need it. The only reason she needs a driver's license is to purchase things like Zyrtec D, because you have to show an ID because it's a controlled or possibly dealing with the bank. Shannon has asked close friends and family, and they tell me to get her a state ID or just let her renew her license to make her feel like she's still in control of something. If she drives, Shannon feels like she could be held liable since she's her only caregiver, but she needed advice. And I think that is a very good question, Shannon. So, Shannon, this is a difficult question to unpack. Your mom's been living with you for 6 years. She's 72, and the doctor told her 7 years ago she shouldn't drive. So that tells me your mom really is not safe to drive. I would be very leery to let her get a driver's license again. You have a couple of ways that you can play this. You can call the doctor's office and have the doctor's office call the DMV to tell the DMV that mom is not safe to drive anymore and make it the DMV's decision not to drive. If she is up for her driver's license for renewal, what you could do is actually make her take a road test again. That puts the onus back on the driver, the DMV that is issuing the driver's license, and make them not issue her a driver's license. But that can be very traumatic because then she actually has to fail the test. Your other option is there are some occupational therapists out in the world, depending on where you live, that do driver's tests. Driving in dementia is very specialized. That is a very specialized part of my world as an occupational therapist. And people with dementia should stop driving a lot earlier than what they do stop driving. And driving with dementia, people make the mistake, care partners make the mistake of thinking that because mom or dad is only driving very familiar routes, they live in a small town, they only drive to, say, the pharmacy, or they only drive to, say, church or whatever, that they are actually still safe to drive. Well, the problem with driving with dementia is that as we're losing our executive functioning, which includes things like anticipating consequences of things, planning and organization, and the probably the most important part is that anticipating the consequence of an action is that as we're going through dementia, we're actually losing those things. And driving is a highly learned skill for us, so we look like we're actually still able to drive because we can do the mechanics of the driving. We can push the brake, we can push the accelerator, we can use the indicator, we can drive the vehicle. But what happens is that we're not anticipating what's coming next. And that is where it becomes dangerous. And that is, and the thing that we believe is, unfortunately, what people start to believe is that driving is a right. We have a right to drive a vehicle. Driving is not a right. Driving is a privilege. It is a privilege to drive the car. And we believe that we have the right to drive. Your mom does not have the right to drive, Shannon. Your mom has a privilege to drive. And because she is getting to a point where it is not safe for her to drive anymore, you're doing her and everybody on the road a disservice to allow her to get her license again. Because what happens is, not only is she at risk, but everybody on the road with her is at risk. And I have seen this numerous times in my career. I've had patients that have been, that their family partners, that their care partners have not been willing to be the bad one to actually take the steps needed. And I'm not saying, Shannon, that you have to take her license away. I believe that that you can use the physician and the DME to take her license away. You need to be the barrier between us and your mom on the road, because your mom, if she still has a driver's license and she has access to car keys, can make a poor decision and get in the car and drive. And then if they accidentally kill people, then that makes the whole situation even worse. So 3 things, Shannon. You could call the doctor, make the doctor call the DMV, and tell them that, they need to not issue her a driver's license. You can make her take a driver's test. You can just go in and fill out the forms and kind of backdoor it. And don't ask her why she needs it, because she's going to say she needs it. That's a very concrete answer. And just kind of backdoor it so that you just get the state ID, but she should not get another driver's license. So I hope that was a helpful answer to your question, Miss Shannon, and I hope anybody else out there listening about driving with dementia will take it serious. Driving with dementia is very dangerous, people. It is extremely dangerous, and we need to be helping our loved ones who have dementia transition earlier. We need a plan. We need alternative people to pick them up. We need to find transportation for them. There's a lot of things we can do. So if you need help with that, wonderful too. I would be happy to help you. So Chris asked, I love that you asked this, Chris. So Chris asked, how many stages are there for dementia? So Chris, that is a fantastic question. That really is a great question. There are multiple different staging tools. One is the functional assessment staging tool. That is the one that I actually like the most. It was developed by a gentleman by the name of Riceberg. He developed the other one, which is called the Global Deterioration Scale. So the Global Deterioration Scale came first, and then he developed the functional assessment staging tool. So that is one, and in that staging tool there are actually 7 different stages. And the 7 different stages, and I'm going to pull my book out if I can reach. I don't think I have it within reach. The functional assessment staging tool has 7 different stages. Stage 1 is normal functioning, and stage 2 is when people start to have a little bit of difficulty with their thinking. Stage 3, and I might actually have to pull this up, so forgive me for typing, because I can do it with a little bit of cueing. And I will put a link in the comments real quick for you regarding this, and I haven't looked at this one, so we will just bear with me. I haven't looked at this one, but I can use it real quick, okay? So the first stage is no difficulty subjectively or objectively, and what that really means is I don't feel like I'm having trouble with my thinking, and a test won't show that I'm having trouble with my thinking. Stage 2 is where people are starting to have what we call subjective cognitive impairment, or I am starting to feel like I'm having trouble with my thinking. But if I actually take an objective test, right, a cognitive assessment, it may not show that I'm actually starting to have difficulty with my thinking. Stage 3 is where a person is probably called mild cognitive impairment. If they're still working, they start to show difficulty in their ability to work. They're starting to forget things at work. It's starting to impact their coworkers. They're not as good with their work anymore. And if they're driving, they may start to have difficulty driving to new locations. And this is where, when, like I said earlier, the executive functioning starts to fall apart, where we start to lose foresight and organization and planning and time management, which is why it starts to impact our ability to work. Then stage 4 in the functional assessment staging tool is people start to have difficulty with complex things, meal planning, finances, medication, paying bills, those kinds of things. So this is where people start to have what we would probably call a mild dementia. So stage 4 kind of is that in-between stage. Stage 5, and actually as I'm going through this for my mom is in a stage 5. So they start to need help in choosing clothing to wear for the season occasion, wants to wear the same clothing repetitively, needs cueing for those kinds of things. And I'm going to use my mom as an example here. My mom several years ago just went to wearing everything needs to be black, and I finally figured out that she did that because then she didn't have to think about what she's going to wear. And so finally this last week, actually this weekend, and I have a list here that I need to buy some shopping for my parents, is that it's just easier for her to do that. So stage 6, so 6 and 7 have subcategories. So stage 6A starts to have trouble putting on clothes without help, and needs prompting. For example, maybe layering their clothes, putting shoes on the wrong feet, having difficulty buttoning, and starting to have this more frequently. 6B, people start to have trouble with washing, things like controlling water temperatures. You'll notice that in the bathroom, they'll open the water faucet. They may not use soap. They may not be able to close it. They might not dry their hands, and this starts to happen more frequently. Stage 6C, they start to have difficulty with going to the toilet. They'll go to the toilet, but they won't flush, or they won't wipe, or their quality of wiping is poor, or they'll just drop the tissue on the floor, and this starts to happen more frequently. Stage 6D, people start to have trouble with urinary incontinence, and this happens more frequently. 6E, people start to have difficulty with managing their bowel and bladder control, and this starts to happen more frequently. And then the final stage of dementia in the functional assessment staging tool is people start to have limited ability to speak a half a dozen words or fewer on average throughout the day or in the course of an interview with other people. 7B is speech is limited to the use of one-word answers, things like I love you, no, yes, may repeat the same word over and over. 7C, people start to not be able to walk anymore. They're mostly bedridden or chair-ridden. They need a lot of physical assistance to walk. 7, if you think about it, people lose the ability to sit up. So, if you think about this as we're kind of going through this, if you think about developmental stuff, some of the first things we do is be able to come up against gravity, right? So as the person's losing their ability, they will lose the ability to maintain their body against gravity. 7E is everything is just here. They might be able to make eye contact and they lose the ability to smile. And 7F is the last stage where the person is likely bedridden or in a very supportive seating system and requiring total assistance. From about the functionally from about 6D down, a person is requiring extensive or 100% assist for all of their needs. 6C, the person may still be able to, with cueing, do some things like pull up their pants if you tell them and so on. But so this is one staging tool. The other one is the cognitive. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, yeah, rating scale. The cognitive rating scale. Let's see. Maybe I can pull it up here. I might not be able to pull it up, but that's back to his question earlier, Chris's question. So that's one staging tool. The other staging tool is one that you can call just mild cognitive impairment, mild dementia, moderate dementia, and severe dementia. And so that one is the cognitive rating scale. And there are I can later on in the comments, Chris, I will put that one as well as well as a calculator, a med calculator. I might be able to pull it up real quick and put it in there for you guys, where you can actually. Oops, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm distracted. So I will put it in the comments later, Chris, and then you can use that. So like I said, there are a variety of different staging tools. So on to Miss Denise's question. Your mom likes to pick fights with you. She's 83 years old, stage 4 or 5. Don't engage, however, her words are painful, and you have to stuff your feelings until you get to a private place and then cry. Are you the only one? No, ma'am. I would. I know that that must be extremely difficult, and I am currently not in that situation. So from a pragmatic perspective, my heart goes out to you, because it sounds like your mom is in kind of maybe lives with you, and I know how painful this is. The thing that I would like to encourage you is that your mom is likely not doing this on purpose. And that is the hard thing. That is probably the hardest thing for people to understand or get to, is that the person. So let's go back to. I'm going to take a step back, right? We all, Denise, you and I know we live in our own head, right? I am a believer. I believe that we are all created in the image of God, and that we are sinners, and that we have fallen from, you know, in the fall of man. And I believe that we all have we people always say people are good. I believe we were created good, but we're not good anymore. And what happens is that we all have that inside us. If we're honest with ourselves, right, Denise? If you're honest with yourself, and I know me, and I can only speak to myself, but I'm very glad people don't always know what I'm thinking, because it's not pretty up there. It is not nice. I'm not a nice person. I think nasty things about other people. I sometimes say not nice things about other people. The difference between me and your mom at 83 with stage 4 or 5 dementia is that my inhibition switch, my executive functioning, is still working right now. And so, when children are developing, right, and you take them to the grocery store and they see a morbidly obese person walking down the hallway, right? What do? They're like, Mom, look at that fat lady, right? Well, that's because their inhibition switch isn't working. So your mom, who developed her inhibition switch, has lost her inhibition switch because of the dementia. And even though she's not meaning it, it it's very normal, and I'm so very sorry that she is doing that. And but try not to take it personally. Try to remember that we are all kind of like that. If we're honest with ourselves, we are all kind of like that. We don't think good things about one another, and your mom's just lost the ability to do that. So I hope that helps you, and I hope I can help you with that. Reach out if you have questions about that. I'd be happy to share some more with you. So, Bill and Fanny. Hi, Bill. Your wife is in stage 6. You're her primary care provider. She fights me when it's time to change her undergarments and when it's time for a bath or a shower. It's like she has to protect herself from seeing you unclothed. Is it because you're a man? Is it time to get a female to help with these daily tasks? Bill, that is a very good question. So I would presume your wife still lives with you, and that she is, so modesty has so bathing and modesty and toileting has kind of started to be an issue. So I would, here's what and that's a very good question. I work with people regarding this every single day. I can give you a general answer to this question. I can give you some general strategies to try, but it is very difficult in a general sense to give you a specific answer to this. It is a very common thing for people to happen. I think that your question whether it's time for you to get a female to help is a great question. I don't know. I can tell you the following. Um, they're always, sorry, that was my cat jumping up and startling me. I can tell you that when we start to see behaviors, which is what you're describing, your wife is starting to have what we call challenging behaviors with her self-care. I don't want it to get to a fight. We never want it to get to a fight. If you guys don't know me, or if you're just joining new, or if this is the first time you're watching, my background is an occupational therapist. And I have helped thousands of people over the years as an occupational therapist in facilities, in assisted living, in home health, everywhere. And so we see this. This is a very common thing to happen. There are 3 things that always have to line up. If you think about it, we have 3 things, Bill. We have your wife, the person with dementia. We have you, the care partner, and we have your environment, or the environment. And I'm going to draw something on the back of, I'm going to draw it real quick on the back of a piece of paper and try to um, show you on the camera, because I'm a very visual person. So we have the person, we have the caregiver, care partner, and we have the environment or home, right? So over here, whoops, let's see. So we have the person, the care partner, and then the home. You see the blacked out space right there? That's the sweet spot, right? So the sweet spot is when everything is going well. So that is the day that she doesn't fight you. That is when everything is, that's the sweet spot. Everything was perfect, right? That was when you could get her changed. That was when you could give her the shower. That was when everything worked out perfect. So you have homework to do. There's a lot of homework to do, actually. I need you to start to write down on the day when you have the sweet spot exactly what was happening. What was the environment like? Was it warm? Was it sunny? What time of day was it? What did the bathroom look like? Did you shower? Did you just sponge bathe? Did you, what did the rest of the day look like? Did you do it? What was your day like? Were you very stressed? Were you not stressed? What did the bathroom look like? Was there a lot of clutter? Was there no clutter? Was it warm? Did you have music on? So find out what the sweet spot is. Behavior, Bill. Any behavior, both challenging behavior and good behavior, is your wife trying to communicate something to you? And she cannot communicate to you in the way that she did before anymore. So what you want to do is on the days, so now you have your sweet spot, and if you don't have a sweet spot, that's okay. Now you need to do the same thing, because the behavior which you're seeing she's fighting you to change is trying to communicate something to you. Is it the environment? Is it too cold? Is it too hot? Does she feel unsafe? Is the bathroom all white? Does she feel like she's gonna fall? How old is she? Did she only sponge bathe when she was a young person and now we're putting her in a shower with water running on her? Did she have a near drowning experience as a child that you don't know about? Did she like to swim? All of these things we need to know in order to solve this specific question. So what I want you to do is I want you to start to make a behavior diary. Who was there? Was it, when, is it every time you change her? Is it only certain times you change her? All of these things, these are things that you have to answer. These are questions you have to answer first before we come up with the solution. Is the bathroom too cold? Was your wife tired? Were you rushed? Are you trying to get her bathed? Is the sweet spot giving her a bath at night, not in the morning? Are you trying to get to work? So I would love to help you with this. If you need more individual help, this is what I do to help people. I work with people individually in a consulting capacity, and if what I've suggested doesn't solve your problem, please reach out to me and we can work together. I would love to be able to help you. Good morning, Belinda. Good morning, Kayla. Vince, good morning. Glad you're here. Moira. Hey, Moira, how are you, sweetheart? And then Miss Eunice. Goeiemôre Eunice, hoe gaan dit? Ek is jammer ek het nie vroeër met jou gepraat nie. Miss Eunice is from South Africa, in case anybody wondered. I just told her good morning. I am from South Africa originally myself, and I know Miss Eunice through this Facebook group. She has been a wonderful support to me over the years. Miss Eunice's mom just recently passed away. She had dementia and a bunch of other stuff going on. So be loved. How do I know which stage your dad is in? So in the comments, if you'll go through the comments from earlier this morning, I did put a staging tool in there. Let me see if I can copy it again real quick. I put a staging tool in the comments. It's called the Functional Assessment Staging Tool. And what you can do, Miss Belinda, Beloved, I'm sorry. Looks like I can't. There we go. You can use that to kind of get you in a ballpark. And then you can, there's another one, and I'll put this in the comments later because I wasn't able to find it real swiftly because, it's live and I got people, watching, so I didn't want to take time out to do that. So there is the Functional Assessment Staging Tool that you can use and read through it. Denise, I'm so glad that was helpful. Let's see where we at. Vince says he had the same problem as Bill with his wife on bathing. He hired a CNA to help her bathe once a week. Best $20 you spent. Absolutely, that is absolutely a possible way to do it. And what you can do, but it's also dependent, it's going to depend on the situation. So so far no one else has any questions? Does anybody else have any particular questions out there? But anyway, so I I am, like I said, I am from um, South Africa originally, so I just wanted to say hi to my friend Eunice. So I have another question here on my sheet. Unless somebody else has a question live, I will keep scrolling down and see. Thank you, Moira. Moira says my answers are amazing. Things people never consider, like cold room, loved one being scared of water. Good question, Bill. Yes, it is a very good question. So I had another question, and unfortunately I didn't write down who asked this, but I know this is a question that a lot of people have, so I'm just going to answer it. Does anybody else whose loved one is their parent fear that they'll end up the same way? So that is a very good question. Yes, I think most people who have a loved one, whether it be an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, a parent, I think that almost anybody who has a loved one whose parent or is their parent has who has dementia, I think they're usually all afraid of developing dementia. I can tell you I am. I am an occupational therapist. I share that with you guys. And I have worked with thousands of people over my career. I've been a therapist for almost 30 years. I will tell you that have worked with amputees, spinal cord injuries, everything. I always used to be, I'm like, oh, well, if I've never been afraid of getting diabetes. Okay, and I should be, but becoming diabetic was never something that I was so afraid of that I would change my life for. But then I started to research dementia. I've worked with people with dementia for decades now, and and they've become my tribe. They're my people. They're the people that I want to help the most in my entire career, and the care partners of people with dementia. And my mom had a stroke in her early 40s. She was 42, and I'm 50. So my mom had a stroke in 1989, I believe it was, and she had a massive hemorrhagic stroke. And her stroke, over years, she's not ever developed diabetes, but she has definitely got cardiovascular changes. And she's had several TIAs over the years. She had this massive stroke at a very young age, and they have some other comorbidities in the household. And so what ended up happening was I started to see my mom's changes over the last 5 years, more rapidly over the last 3 years. And then I realized, oh my word, I might actually be at risk for dementia because I never actually, stupid me, but that's okay. I never put together, vascular dementia and lifestyle, or you know, blood sugar and lifestyle, diabetes and dementia. And there's more and more research is coming out that some dementia, not all dementia, dementia is an umbrella term, right? So we have an umbrella term. We have Alzheimer's dementia, we have vascular dementia, we have frontotemporal dementia, we have Lewy body dementia, we have mixed dementia, we have all these different little silos, right? So back to the question, am I afraid? Are people afraid of getting dementia? Yes, they are. And so some dementias are hereditary or more hereditary, but just because a dementia has a hereditary component does not mean that you will develop dementia. But you have to be active in your own life. We as a society have to start to take ownership for the things that we are doing to our own bodies, either that are environmental, that are lifestyle based, that are things like blood sugar, that are things like toxicity, mold in the environment, etc. There's a book, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Bredesen, and I would recommend anybody read his book. He goes into the end of Alzheimer's. And they have done extensive research. They have done extensive research in, I don't know where my comment went. I don't see that it went anywhere, but anyway, might have still, anyway, I'll put it in later. There it is, the end of Alzheimer's. And he has identified a lot of the research, newer research, and this is not a popular thing on some of these larger dementia support groups, that dementia is actually, some dementias are preventable. This is not a popular thing, and we're just going to briefly talk about some things that Dr. Bredesen talks about in his book, and I actually did a whole 3-hour presentation for occupational therapists on how to prevent dementia. So the research is out there that there are things that we can do. People want to take a pill. So people want, like, if you think about diabetes, right? Diabetes is lifestyle based, not if you're type 1 diabetic. I'm not talking about people who have type 1 diabetes. I'm talking about type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is preventable, people. We don't like to say that because we don't want to offend people, and we don't want people to think that, we're judging them. We're not judging them. I'm not judging anybody who has type 2 diabetes. I came this close. This close. Normal A1C is anything under 5.9. 5.8, 5.9. If you start to hit a 6.0, you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, okay? So a year ago, I weighed almost 30 to 40 pounds more than I weigh right now. And that was my light bulb moment when my A1C started to creep up, okay? So blood sugar, Dr. Bredesen has identified, so back to the diabetes. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I do have a point. Diabetes, you can take a pill to bring your blood sugar down. That's a monotherapy. Or think about a headache. You have a headache, right? You take ibuprofen, and 2 hours later your headache's gone. That's a monotherapy. Dementia is not something that can be fixed by a monotherapy. We are never, in my opinion, my crystal ball breaks. I totally get that. Research 100 years from now may show here's the pill to cure dementia. But Dr. Bredesen, Dr. Braille, Dr. Bredesen has has identified 36 people, 36 different unique factors that contribute to dementia. Medication plugs one hole. So I'm not saying medication doesn't help with slowing down the trajectory of dementia, because I have seen it make a difference functionally in people. It doesn't cure dementia, right? A monotherapy is not going to cure dementia. But what can change our cognition, and this is true for everybody, right? All of us, like if you think about you, if you think about me, when we're tired, when we're sick, when we're, you took a plane, you're sleeping in a hotel room, you took a plane trip, you're somewhere else, you've got jet lag, all of these things. Do we think as well? You just have a baby. This was 23 years ago for me, the last 22 years ago, the last time I had a baby. But think about it, you have a lifestyle change, you have the death of a loved one, you have depression because of a death of a loved one, or you're dealing as a caregiver with depression because of what's going on in your life. Our cognition, nobody's cognition is static. It's not like this. We have good days and we have bad days. But there are things that we can do to improve our cognitive ability. And what Dr. Bredesen has identified is there are 36 unique factors. Some of them are person-based. For example, optimizing your own nutritional status. Do you have the right balances of all of the different types of nutrition? What is your blood sugar? So my blood sugar went from 5.9 a year ago to down to 5.3, and all I did was change what I eat, right? So we can control our somewhat our destiny, but we have to be willing to change what we do. And so those 36 factors, the more we plug up those 36 factors, the better we can make our own cognitive abilities. And so back to what the question that was about fearing whether or not we actually have dementia, and whether we're going to turn out the same way. I beg you, number one, if you are afraid that you may have dementia, there are a lot of things that we can do. Number one, I can help you do a cognitive test. That's definitely something we can do to see whether you truly do have trouble with your thinking or not. And just because you have trouble with your thinking doesn't mean that there aren't things that you can do for it. Number two, Vince is 100% correct. You can get genetic testing to see whether you have the apolipoprotein 4 in your genetic code in your DNA. Those people, we inherit certain genes from our parents, and if we have one of those, we are more at risk, but we're not as much at risk as if we have both. If we inherited it from both parents, we are 50% or more at risk for actually developing dementia. But that doesn't mean that we will, right? And I have chosen right now not to actually have myself tested, because I think my situation is, it's lifestyle based with my parents. And I saw it my grandmother had later stages dementia. She probably started to develop dementia or cognitive impairment in her 80s, and hers was 100% lifestyle, because they started eating in the 70s in South Africa. Our diet radically changed, right? Everybody went from a very healthful diet. I grew up in South Africa. We have fruit trees in the backyard. Everybody had their own gardens. You would walk out to the garden and pick your vegetables and your fruit. Well, in the 70s, our diets changed, and people started eating margarine, not butter anymore. They went from a very plant-based with meat diet to a very grain-based cereal, bread type of a diet. And I really do think it's contributed over time to that. But anyway, so that was my answer regarding if you're fearing that your parent has dementia, that you will get it. If you want more if you have more questions regarding this, please reach out to me. There are 3 ways you can connect with me. 4 ways. I added my Calendly link in there. I've opened up 3 slots for people to talk to me one-on-one for 30 minutes if you'd like. So it should be up in the comments there. But there are 4 ways you can connect with me. You can join my Facebook group, which is called Think Different Dementia. You can subscribe to me on YouTube, which is also Think Different Dementia. You can reach out to me through Messenger, Lizette Kluta OT. Just reach out to me through Messenger, or you can book a call, or just schedule a call and we can talk for 30 minutes. I'd be happy to help anybody on these live streams who want to reach out. So Moira has another question. Am I talking about Alzheimer's regarding genetics? So Moira, that is a very good question. There are frontotemporal dementia I actually learned recently, which I did not know. I'm an adult. We learn by making mistakes, right? And so I don't know that much about frontotemporal dementia, so I started to learn a little bit more about frontotemporal dementia. Frontotemporal dementia has a significant hereditary component. So frontotemporal dementia has certain genes and genetics that show up on testing. So that's one that has a significant hereditary link. It's also one of the harder types of dementia to deal with because it affects the frontotemporal part of our brain, and the frontal lobe of our brain is where our personality is, and that's where our inhibition switch lives too. So when people start to have trouble with frontotemporal dementia, they have a lot of behavioral components, and that is people are way more at risk of developing frontotemporal dementia earlier, and they also have a stronger genetic component. Lifestyle changes will never hurt, right? It does not hurt. And what we were talking about regarding Alzheimer's and genetics, yes, the Dr. Bredesen has really been researching Alzheimer's dementia, even though people who have Alzheimer's dementia and people who have vascular dementia and people who have some of the other dementias all look very similar. It's very difficult to, Alzheimer's per se really can only definitively be diagnosed on autopsy. So, when they open up your brain, yes, I agree, Robbie. Yay, Robbie. We've been talking about Dr. Bredesen this morning. So Robbie and I've had contact outside of this group too. Robbie actually has a consulting company where she works with people individually. And Robbie, please throw your contact information in the comments for other people who are at risk. Yes, we want to do what Dr. Bredesen calls a cognoscopy. I do the test. I do the cognitive test per se, and I will throw that in the comments later today as well if anybody's interested in just the cognitive component of the test. But you can do blood work, you can do genetic testing. There's a huge battery of things that people can do to see how much at risk they are and which factors they need to work on. So, I didn't start this live stream with the intent today to go down the Dr. Bredesen uh, pathway. However, this is what I live every single day. I live Dr. Bredesen's protocol, probably not to the extent that Robbie does it, and probably not to the extent that Vince is probably doing it either, because it sounds like Vince and his grandchildren have made the lifestyle changes needed to prevent dementia. But there are things we can do, people. So Robbie, please throw your website out here in this, and I will put a link in the comments too, as well, for where people can get further information on a cognitive eval, because I love these lives. They kind of, each one's got their own flavor, each one's got their own jive. Each one, we talk about different things, and today we just really kind of did get into prevention, and I feel very passionate about it because I live this, people. I live prevention. I live dementia prevention. I have changed my diet. I do a high fat, low fat, not low fat, sorry, I was reading Robbie's thing. I do a high fat diet. I follow a keto diet. I take supplements every single day, and I haven't gone to the genetic testing component of it, although I am strongly considering it. But like I said earlier in this broadcast, whoever has been listening, I never was afraid of developing diabetes, but I was petrified of getting dementia. So what I did is I read Dr. Bredesen's book, and I started really researching preventing dementia. I read Grain Brain. There are a bunch of really good books out there. I think Dr. Bredesen has the most comprehensive program and package out there. So I do follow the Dr. Bredesen protocol, not to the extent that Robbie helps people do. And Robbie actually is a health coach for Dr. Bredesen, so I'm thankful that she got on here. But I, as an occupational therapist, have gone down that using it for myself, and then doing cognitive testing for people who have fear that they have changes in their thinking. So to conclude today's broadcast, we talked about staging earlier on. We talked about the functional assessment staging tool earlier on, and that's also in the comments. But we have normal cognition, then we have what's called subjective cognitive impairment. So subjective cognitive impairment literally just means this: I know I'm having trouble with my thinking, but no one else knows I'm having trouble with my thinking. And people who have subjective cognitive impairment are entirely able to function, but they know that they're starting to have difficulty with their thinking processes. And it could just be related to stress or fatigue or sleep or depression or nutrition or all of these things. But what we want to do is, if we have subjective cognitive impairment, we have to figure out if we're truly having trouble with our thinking. The only way to do that is with a cognitive assessment. So later today in the comments, I'm going to put my link for people who are interested in a cognitive assessment. It is something that I do as a consultant. And the cognoscopy. The cognoscopy is this, what I do is the baby step. The cognoscopy is the bazooka. If you wanted to go the bazooka route, I would do the cognoscopy. If you just wanted to kind of figure out where you're at, we can do a test. I have standardized tests that we use that Dr. Bredesen also uses those tests. So there you have a couple of options available to you. And then right under subjective cognitive impairment, we have what's called mild cognitive impairment, and that's where it starts to impact our ability to function. So I beg you, anybody out there watching this, in the replay, in the comments, put in the replay that you watched. If you are having, if you have subjective cognitive impairment, and Robbie can help me with this, if you have subjective cognitive impairment, people do not ignore it, because there are things we can do. And I don't know if you guys can tell, I just got really passionate today. I got really passionate about this morning, because preventing dementia is massively important. You're 9 years younger. No, it's not too late for you and for her children and yours. Vince, I am so glad that you did that. I'm so glad that you're here. If you ever wanted to just do the cognitive eval, please just reach out to me, because we certainly can do that. I thank you guys for coming. I went over a little this morning. Thank you everybody who's been out here live. Like I said, there are three primary ways. Hang on, Moira has a comment here. Here you are referred to a GP and a memory clinic where somebody does a memory test, etc. And you have a brain scan, MRI to look at your brain, then a psychiatrist or a psychologist to see if there's dementia or a combination. Yes, ma'am, I know. I'm so sorry. And if you ever wanted another test, Moira, just reach out to me. I'll help you for sure. Moira and I've been in contact for several months as well. So this was the Baffled Brain. This is my hour-long Facebook Live on a Saturday morning for this. I'm just going to read it again. My weekly hour-long Facebook Live that'll teach you everything you want to know about how to manage dementia. Today was March the 20th, 2021, and this was episode 17. And I am your host, Lizette Kluta from Think Different Dementia, where we believe caregivers deserve reliable and accessible answers to questions, because providing caregivers actionable strategies, reliable information, gives them, you guys, and people with dementia their best quality of life, improves their relationships, and delays decline. So we have three ways. You have three ways to get a hold of me. You can join my Facebook group, which is called Think Different Dementia. You can reach out to me on Facebook at Lizette Kluta OT. You can subscribe to me on my YouTube channel called Think Different Dementia. I'm here to serve. I do this once a week on a Saturday morning. I've gone a little long this morning. I'm going to be dropping some links in the comments, and I'll be tagging the people that I answered English questions for. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. I truly, you are my passion. This is my tribe. I'm going to end with the way I always end. The Lord bless you and keep you. I will be back again next week. Please ask me questions. This is my gift to you. This is how I serve you. So I will be back again next Saturday morning, and I will post this again later on. So bye.